Yo, welcome back to another edition of the Men Who Cry podcast. Like, subscribe, review, tell a friend, 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 tell a friend. If you do not do these things, I have to assume that you will not stop using Ozempic. Thank you guys for the long wait. I feel like it was only like 10 days, if it was even that. But thank you guys for waiting. Yes, I was out last week. I was not as old as I am right now when I took a nice vacation. I think for me, and I think people who have summer birthdays and want to do kind of sports content are in like a bit of a pickle, right? So my birthday is pretty late in the summer, or rather on the opposite end of the middle of summer, right? And I always look at sports in a sense of like the best time. I would say we have a nice run of sports from about college football season, the start of that. So that's about maybe the week before Labor Day, or maybe you think Labor Day is like the start of it, right? Till roughly, I would say you can push it till a little after July 4th, right? Between that, you will have college football, NFL, NBA, NHL, and 2/3 of the MLB season, right? However, once you get to like late July, between late July and essentially that Labor Day period, we are doing what this podcast will be called is engagement farming. Okay, people have to pay bills around here, and this is what we do to get you guys to listen to these pods during the summertime. But thank you guys for whoever listened and whoever listened and sent me birthday wishes. I really appreciate all of that. You know, I got to celebrate more life, right? What did Kanye say once? We weren't supposed to make it past 25. Joke's on you. We still alive. Throw your hands up in the sky and say, we don't care what people say. Yeah, I don't know if it's still in vogue to say Kanye West verses in 2025, but I mean, the world seems like it's upside down. On today's edition, we are going to be talking about thoughting in a way. I had a quick conversation with someone who's my cousin, right? She's my younger cousin. And trust me, this will be a PG conversation. And it's difficult, I think, when you see someone in a certain light. I think most parents can relate to this, right? Whether it's you have a child or a younger sibling or a family member, and they're growing up, and then they start doing the things that you would be like, well, I'm grown and doing this, but you have to realize that they're now grown and doing that too. And I told them that, hey, I don't think you should be doing so much of that showing off. You know, I feel like this was a good point of me being pushed into a young middle age moment. You know, I was looking at it like, whoa, what is being done there? And they turned around and told me very astutely, it said, you can't tell me what to be doing when you be dating or be hanging out with people who are either my age or younger. And I took that L in stride. And the reason why I took that L in stride is because they were right. I can't really be out here making too many comments on someone doing something if that same thing is what gets me interested. With that said, we're going to make the hard transition of Luka Doncic out here thought now. Luka Doncic is featured in the new Men's Health article, looking way more in shape. And I would say this, that there is nothing more embarrassing for a professional athlete than when you're out of shape, men or women. Your job is to be in shape. That is the baseline of your performance. I'm not talking about being hurt. I'm not even talking about necessarily playing to a certain standard, even though that does come with it. The baseline of being a professional athlete is being in shape. And for the longest time, while Luka was able to get or at least have a lot of success while clearly not being in shape, last season I think it finally, got to him, right? The whole jokes of calling him Luka Doncic did not come out of nowhere, right? But in these pictures that he's clearly showed off is that he's clearly lost a lot of weight, or at least he looks way more in shape. He looks way more like the player he did when he first was drafted than he was last season or even the season prior to that. And I have said that I don't know if I don't really know what I say on this pod and what I just say in real life. But Luka Doncic, if he's worth his salt in anything, should finish top 5 in MVP this season. Because there's never been a time where I think Luka has faced this level of criticism from the outside, right? Whether it's the fact that he was on the Lakers or the fact that he, like we just said, was clearly out of shape. His team basically said, you are too fat, and we do not trust the fact that you will stay healthy enough to play for us, right? This man needs to have what I believe is one of Shaq's best seasons, 2001 Shaq season. You can argue that was the only season that Shaq was in shape. However, he won everything. What we have talked about this podcast was, did Shai Gilgeous-Alexander have the best season of all time last season, right? And the season that we were comparing it to was the 2001 Shaquille O'Neal season when he was with the Lakers. And it's funny, someone made the joke on Twitter, and I think I saw it on Threads. What was hilarious was Luka Doncic just did what every other person did who just went through a bad breakup, a toxic relationship, get their ass in the gym, and that's what Luka did. And for this, and the reason why this podcast is called Engagement Farming is because we'll be talking a little bit about the future of what we think will happen next season. So the thing that we will be talking about is NBA MVP tiers. If you are a Kurt Goldsberry fan, he is someone who now, I believe he used to work for ESPN, now he works for The Ringer. He has these like pyramid shapes, right? And the pyramid basically has the guys who he believes will be contending for the MVPs, right? There's a 4-person at the bottom, 3, then 2, and then someone at the top, right? So we'll be going through that on this pod, and then we'll do the second half of it on the pod on Thursday, actually on Friday when you guys will hear this. We'll record on Thursday. And this is strictly for, like I said, engagement farming, because this is summertime and I need to give y'all this content to be able to get this going through. So we will start off at the bottom tier to start right now, and then the second half we will go through the rest of the people next week, and maybe not Luka Doncic will be on this. Now for this bottom tier, this is not in any order, right? We will say these players' names. These are not anyone who I think has more or less of a chance. I just think that this is a nice tier of guys who will be able to get it, right? This tier I just have as I can see it happening, right? I wouldn't pick any of these guys to win MVP, but I'm going to make the case as to why each and every one of them can actually win MVP for the 2025-2026 season. All right. First guy we are going to start off with, which might be a little bit of surprise for everyone in this tier, but we're going to go with Cade Cunningham from the Detroit Pistons. Cade Cunningham's team lost in the first round, lost in 6 games to the New York Knicks. Cade is coming off finishing second team All-NBA last season, had a phenomenal year with the Pistons. First time they have made the playoffs in a super long time, and absolutely validated the reason why he was the first overall pick in the draft a few seasons ago. Okay, so the reason for Cade to be at the spot of I can see it, MVPs, right? It's not just the fact that, and this will be the main theme for most of the guys in the Eastern Conference in this actual pyramid. These is terrible, okay? Meaning that there will be someone able to soak up a lot of wins here in the Eastern Conference. You're not going to have a guy who's normally on the list in Jason Tatum, so that's already a spot that will be opened up. And you have a team that I feel like will be able to rise up and get some MVP love. The reason why I have Cade here is because I do not think last season was a fluke. And I think that the thing that works the best in Cade's favor is there's no one else right now on the Pistons that you think will either make an all-star team with him next year, or if they do, it will be because Cade has won so many games, or the Pistons have won so many games, is that we need to give you guys a second dude, right? This is the Mo Williams Award is what I'd like to always think of it as. Cade is a guy who makes sure he gets everyone involved, and yet he's still able to get his offense going very well. He's not a very good defender right now, but you feel as if that he has the size to be able to hold his own. I don't ever think he'll be an impact defender just because while there is something to him being big, he's a big guard, he's not laterally quick. And I just think that there is just going to be a limitation on someone who doesn't have that type of quick burst in terms of being a certain type of defender. But the difference between him and I think other guards who are also limited a bit laterally, like Donovan Mitchell or Jalen Brunson, is the fact that, like I said, he is big as hell. And just being big is part of the reason why you can be a solid defensive player. If you look up his numbers from last season, which he did make, like I said, All-NBA, second team, he was 26 points per game. He had 6 rebounds. He had 9 assists. He shot 46% from the field last season. The biggest jump for him, I think, will be, can he get his three-point shooting up? Last season, the last 2 seasons, he basically shot about the same from 3. He shot 35.5% in 2023-2024 season. Last season, he upticked it about to 35.6%. The Pistons are now going to not be a team that people are going to be sleeping on, right? People are going to be expecting them to win a lot of games next season. And I think the expectations is for them to have home court in the first round next season. And I think if Cade is able to get the Pistons to be maybe even the 2 or the 3 seed, and then, like I said before, is clearly that he is the best guy and there's no other all-star, I can absolutely see him having a chance to really get this MVP status going. I don't necessarily think he would win it. I think it would be tough for him to get in the top 5 per se, because there's plenty of guys that I think will be able to have similar seasons or similar type numbers than him. But he is someone that I don't think is being talked about enough as a guy that could be in the MVP conversation going forward and be a guy that could actually make some, not only just make ballots, but definitely be in the top 5 of MVP this season. Next guy we're going to go to, we're staying in the conference as well. We are going to go with a guy who did finish top 5 in MVP last season. We are going to go with the one Donovan Mitchell of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Also, shout out to Donovan Mitchell. If you know, you know. Shout out to Donovan Mitchell. Anyway, Donovan Mitchell last season put up 24 points a game, shot 44% from the field, 36.8% from 3, so almost 37% per game. 5 assists, 4.5 rebounds, 1.3 steals on the best team in the Eastern Conference last season. Like I said, this is not left or right, but if you had me picking, I think Donovan will have to have a similar season like he did last season, where the team success is just overwhelming, right? They're either tied or a slight favorite to have the best record in the Eastern Conference, and I still believe that they are either tied or a slight favorite to win the conference. Donovan made first team All-NBA last season. It was his best season of his NBA career, even though they were able to flame out in the playoffs. The issue with Donovan, and I think the narrative of what will be a problem for Mitchell going forward, is what exactly is there to accomplish for the Cavaliers this season, right? They basically had their best non-LeBron regular season in the history of the franchise, right? They won the most games without LeBron. They had the number 1 seed without LeBron, for the first time in a long time, like yada, yada, right? And they now carry the weight of none of this stuff matters, right? And I don't know how much that's actually going to affect him. That would be my first concern about the Cavs. What exactly are they playing for outside of, obviously making the playoffs? You don't want to be an 8 seed, but are they going to necessarily go so hard to get the number 1 seed? The difference with them last season was they got out to such a huge lead that they basically had the number 1 seed locked up, I believe, almost by Christmas time. Like, they never were really challenged at any point once we got into the new year of being the number 1 seed. And I don't necessarily think that they're going to have that level of a start and they won't have any competition per se. I actually don't even have them being the number 1 seed next season, but it would be very interesting to see what their actual season goals will be, right? They basically are running back the same team Lonzo Ball is the only addition that they have. I think that was a really good pickup for them as a team. I really love the way that Lonzo's able to just be on any type of winning team. I understand that Lonzo's never been to the playoffs, but that's a large part of the people around Lonzo, not necessarily Lonzo Ball. The second thing, and someone brought this up to my attention, and this will be hard, and this is the inverse of the Cade conversation that I just had, is how much does Evan Mobley kind of eat into Donovan Mitchell's narrative, right? Evan Mobley won Defensive Player of the Year. He was also an All-NBA player. You would think is going to still be on the rise, and some people even think that he might have to be the Cavs' best player. I'm not going to go that far just because I'm not 100% sure of if Evan Mobley is going to be that level of offensive player to get you buckets in the postseason, right? He is an outstanding defensive player. I think he is way more in the Bam Adebayo bucket than he is in the Kevin Garnett bucket. And that will be the kind of push and pull. If he is more in the Kevin Garnett bucket, then the Cavaliers have an absolute chance not only to win the conference, but to win the NBA championship next season. But is all of that the point? Is this going to be one of the conversations that, if you remember, Dwayne Wade had with LeBron James, where he said, this is your team now? And LeBron basically took over the team and kind of get going. I'm interested to see how that push and pull will be for the Cavs next season. But to me, this is obviously another great opportunity for Mitchell to finish once again the top 5 of the MVPs for next season. The next guy that we will go over here, he might even be in his own category of like, I had to pick an old head. Frankly, because spoiler alert, LeBron and Steph Curry are not on this list at all. So I don't know if that meant to turn your TVs off or your whatever you're watching or listening to this on, but these guys are not on the list. But who is on the list is Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, newly acquired Houston Rocket, is on this tier. Kevin Durant had another very good season, even though he didn't make All-NBA, mostly because he didn't qualify because he didn't play enough games. He only needed to play 3 more games. But 26.5 points per game. He shot 50. Again, another thing for Kevin Durant's career, and just like a side note, like this dude for pound, in terms of just as a basketball player, truly is one of just the greatest players of all time. Like, it is insane, some of his numbers that you just look at and you just think like, wow, this guy is really just one of the greatest players of all time. His field goal percentage, I'm just going to list off the last couple of years, his field goal percentage. He shot 52% last year, 52% again the year before that, 55.5% the year before that, 51.8% the year before that, 53%, 52, 51, 53, 50, 51, 50, 51. This man hasn't shot under 50% from the field since 2011 when he was with the Thunder. Like, he hasn't shot under 37% from 3 ever. No, I'm lying. Since 2010 when he was with the Thunder. This guy is honestly, again, like, if I just, this is really a side note now, but like his career went such a different way that I just wonder like how this guy was just not going to be considered a top 10 player of all time. He's so good. 43% from 3, 6 rebounds, 4 assists a game, and 36 minutes per game. The case for Durant is pretty simple. You have the Houston Rockets team that basically is the same team, and they essentially just swapped out Jalen Green for Kevin Durant. Obviously, lost Dylan Brooks, who isn't a nothing player, but the idea that Dylan Brooks is some type of linchpin for the Houston Rockets just isn't the case. They won a crap ton of games last season. You would figure that they're pretty much a sure thing. Now, it's the Western Conference, so anything can happen, to be in the top 3 of the Western Conference again. Kevin Durant, I think, de facto, while I think a lot of people are high on Ahmed Thompson and Alperen Sengun, I think that he is still very clearly their best offensive player. And for them to have that record that they will have, if he has these types of numbers next season, I think that he is going to be a good bet to be in the conversation for MVP. The question for Durant is going to be how many games that he's going to play, because while all those numbers were so nice that I just listed off, I'm going to have to list off the games played. He played 62 games last season, even though I think he probably could have played more games for them. He played 75 games for the Suns the year prior. The combined seasons he played for the Suns and the Nets, he played 47 games for them. Then it's 55 games, 35, 78, 68, 62. But we're going basically now a decade ago with the Warriors. And he's got to play 65 games, right? I'm unsure if his body will be able to hold up to be able to get the requisite amount of games played under his belt, which will be the biggest problem for him. But the idea that Kevin Durant can win an MVP at this age as well, next season, I'm trying to find Kevin Durant. Sorry, he will be 37, next season, right? Can a 37-year-old win an MVP? I can look up right now. Who's actually the oldest guy to win MVP? I don't actually know off the top of my head. Oldest player. If I had to guess, actually, let me take a guess. I would figure it might have been, couldn't have been Jordan. Ooh, that's a great question. Hakeem played in college. I'm gonna guess it was Moses, not Moses Malone. I'm gonna guess it was the mailman was the oldest player to win MVP. Ooh, I was right. Karl Malone. See, boom. This is why you gotta trust your instincts. I didn't even know. Karl Malone was 35 years old when he won the MVP in 1999, and Karl Malone's Karl Malone. And so Kevin Durant is going to be 2 years older than this going into this season if he were to able to get this award. I do think there's a real chance of any of the guys, and I will get to the last guy in a sec, of who would get it. If I had to pick any of these four guys, I would really think long and hard about picking Kevin Durant to win this award, just because it's already set up there. If you look at the way these MVP seasons happen, you have to essentially have one of two things, right? You either got to be the best player on the best team in the league or one of the top two teams in the league, or have a statistical outlier type season, right? Russell Westbrook comes to mind when he won and they were a 6th seed. Jokic, I believe, was also a 6th seed when he won his second MVP. And I don't necessarily think Kevin Durant's eligible to have like one of those kind of ridiculous type seasons. But I definitely do think that he has a better case, and I think a lot of people are thinking about in this moment, for him to be able to win this award and actually be eligible to win MVP, right? The last side we are going to go for is the type of player that I just talked about, the inverse, right? The guy that needs to have the crazy, super ridiculous MVP. I'm just doing all the numbers to do everything. That's Victor Wembanyama, right? Victor Wembanyama had his season cut last season due to a blood clot issue. It seems like he's going to play the rest of the season. I don't know if he had surgery in the off season. I don't think that was actually listed at any point, but he's a guy who I think is actually going to be up there to get it. So as I'm looking right now, Victor Wembanyama is from BetMGM. He's a plus 1,300 to win MVP for next season, right? Speaking of which, I should probably list some of these odds because I keep forgetting. Everything's about betting now. So for Donovan Mitchell, he's a plus 5,000. Cade Cunningham is plus 4,000 to win. And everyone else, like I said, he of this tier, Victor has the greatest odds. He's a plus 1,300. Kevin Durant is a plus 8,000 to win the award. The reason why, again, I think Victor Wembanyama would be somewhat of an interesting bet is the idea of, in his case, is I'm just going to do everything and be the best player in the regular season, right? I'm going to play a ton of games. I'm going to play really hard. I'm going to be the defensive player of the year. That's kind of in my mind already kind of baked in. And I'm going to have one of the one of the greatest statistical seasons in NBA history from an overall player. I don't necessarily think this would be the greatest offensive season that a player would have. I do think he has the ability to have the best defensive season of all time, and that translate into the Spurs winning, 44 games, 45, 46 games, right? Now, is 45, 46 games enough to be the sixth seed in the Western Conference? I don't think so, right? So he's going to have to find a way to be able to get 50 in some way, right? Just because I don't think anyone's going to be comfortable giving a guy finishing the play-in the MVP award, right? You can't have 6 other teams be that much better than you and get in. And the second case is that his team's really, really young, right? Like, it's a bunch of guys on like rookie contracts, It's going to be tough for him to be able to like lean on any vet. At this point, he's like the vet in the room. It's him and like Harrison Barnes. So Victor would be like the guy I think can come across in like this like hybrid mode of like, I am the guy that you need in this room to get you where you're going. And that's his best case, I think, to actually get this kind of award. Overall, like I said, of these 4 guys, I think Durant has the best chance to win the MVP, the actual win it. Cade and Donovan, I think, can get on ballots, and I think they could finish in the top 5. But like I said before with Donovan I just don't necessarily think – I think voters are just going to hold it against him that his team was the best in the league last year, and I absolutely think that your postseason – it's odd. I definitely think your postseason from the year prior can oddly affect the way people view you going into the season because, again, what is there for the Cavs to prove? There's no, I think, room for him to actually grow versus someone like Cade, who I do think he has room to grow. I just don't know if he can necessarily put up the type of box office numbers that will get people to look, really. And while I think he's going to win a lot of games, I think the Pistons are going to be good. I don't think they're going to finish in the top 3 in the Eastern Conference. I think them being 4 is a goal, and I think they should achieve that goal. As right now, I have them being 4th. But I don't necessarily think that he is someone that is going to light up the box score in that kind of way to actually win the award. Victor, I think, like we just showed, I think has a good statistical case to be in the mix for this. But I actually think that Kevin Durant, if he's able to stay healthy and play in enough games, I think his team is simply too good for him not to be able to get on the ballots. And like I said, if he puts up the numbers that he's been putting up for essentially his career, he's a guy that should absolutely finish in the top 5 of MVP, maybe even the top 3 of MVP, and have this be a real conversation. So yeah, but that's all we got for you guys right now, right? That was the start of the list for you guys. Coming back from vacay, it's just me, you guy. Like I said, thank you guys again for listening. Real short pod for you guys. We'll be back later this week to talk about the next couple of groupings of guys that'll be going along on this pyramid of NBA MVPs. All right. Like I said, like, subscribe, review, tell a friend, and I'll be back with you guys in a couple of days. All right. Peace, y'all.